This week, a deadly hammer attack leaves 2 children critically injured.
I think I can speak for all New Yorkers when I say our prayers are with this family at this time.
Plus, a passenger savagely slashed on the subway. And an exotic animal crackdown on Coney Island.
This is exploitation of these animals. They don't belong in a crap bag.
Right now, Fox 5's Crime in the City. Here are the crimes across the 5 boroughs. We begin this week in Brooklyn and the scene of a horrific hammer attack at an apartment in Sunset Park.
2 children, just 3 and 5 years old, are in critical condition after a brutal hammer attack that left their mother dead.
So a man who lives in the same apartment has been charged with that attack. Briella Tomasetti, outside that apartment in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. What is going on this morning, Briella?
This is just a gut-wrenching story to have to report on what happened inside that apartment building behind me. It's hard to even imagine. A mother bludgeoned to death, her kids also beaten, fighting for their lives in critical condition as we speak at the hospital, all while the attacker's 9-year-old son reportedly watched it happen. A mother is dead and her 2 young children left clinging to life in a gruesome hammer attack that unfolded inside their own apartment. Police got a call for an assault in progress on 52nd Street in Sunset Park just before 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. When they arrived on scene, they immediately apprehended 47-year-old Leon Ye, who attempted to walk out of the building covered in blood.
As they ascended to the apartment on the 2nd floor, they encountered the 3 victims who were seriously injured.
The victims, 43-year-old Zhao Zhao, her 5-year-old son, and 3-year-old daughter, were all suffering from severe head trauma. While one pair of officers placed Ye under arrest, 2 backup officers allowed EMTs to begin life-saving CPR and rush the family to NYU Langone, Brooklyn in an ambulance. It was there that Zhao died from her injuries, their helpless children now barely hanging on.
I think I can speak for all New Yorkers when I can say our community, our prayers are with this family at this time.
The bloody hammer was recovered at the scene. Ye has been charged with murder, attempted murder, assault, and criminal possession of a weapon. Detectives are now trying to piece together what may have sparked the horrific attack.
What I can describe to you is a small apartment, 3 rooms occupied by 3 separate families, if you will. So, tight quarters, don't know what the dispute was about.
Investigators say Ye rented 1 room with his 9-year-old son. Zhao and her 2 kids lived in another. A 3rd person lived alone in the last room and was unharmed.
Total shock, because most Chinese here are really quiet.
Neighbors in the tight-knit Asian community now trying to wrap their minds around the unthinkable.
Around a little past 3, the community actually notified me the first call.
State Senator Ewen Chu says her office is now working to offer translation services to Zhao's husband and father of her kids, who currently lives out of state.
I told the 72, the precinct, I know the father from the victim's family. He lives in Ohio. He works in Ohio, so he's trying to come back.
Now, police have acknowledged that there is a language barrier, but when they brought Ye into custody, an officer was able to translate. Keep in mind, though, it may take even longer with that complication for investigators to determine a solid motive.
Next in Queens, a frantic search for a missing 5-year-old girl comes to an end.
Disturbing new developments in the case of a 5-year-old girl who went missing in Queens yesterday. She was found after a frantic search that lasted several hours.
All right, tonight, the 75-year-old man accused of taking her is facing charges including kidnapping. Fox 5's Kendall Green is in Jackson Heights with the latest.
75-year-old France Villa speaking to reporters on his way to booking after the charges filed against him Wednesday, calling his arrest following 5-year-old Genesis Inamagua's disappearance Tuesday a police stunt. He's now charged by Manhattan's district attorney's office with kidnapping with injury, abuse, or sexual motive, first-degree criminal sexual act, unlawful imprisonment, and acting in a manner injurious to a child under 17, all in connection with the hours-long search for the 5-year-old girl Tuesday, involving helicopters, K-9s, and dozens of police officers. Police searched frantically for the girl last seen at Food Town grocery store on 37th Avenue in Jackson Heights around 9 a.m. Images clearly show the elderly man and the little girl together.
I don't know. I'm speechless.
They say he committed a sexual act against the 5-year-old girl while she was missing. alleging it happened when he took her back to his apartment in Lower Manhattan before being located by police hours later around 4:30 at the Jackson Heights Roosevelt Avenue subway station, where he was taken into custody. You can see police comforting and surrounding the child following that desperate search. Authorities determined the child's mom and the elderly man were acquaintances who barely known each other for a month, clarifying he'd met the child before and mom felt she trusted him. Now, the 5-year-old's mom, 30-year-old Kimberly Puwan, was expected to face charges in this case, but the Queens DA's office tells us they will not be pursuing those charges at this time.
Over in Manhattan, gunfire erupts in a smoke shop robbery in East Harlem.
Made it to the back room and locked it because I was like, this guy has a gun and a knife. It's like, it's over at this point.
22-year-old Tariq Nieves is still in a state of disbelief Saturday. He didn't want to show his face on camera, but says he's just grateful he survived what could have been a deadly night.
They acted like they were just normal customers, and then out of nowhere, one of them pulled a gun out, the taller one, and he pointed it right at me all the way from back there to like there. It was like a silver revolver.
Nieves says he was hanging out at his friend's store, the Essex Convenience Smoke Shop on 116th Street in East Harlem, when 2 men walked in and tried robbing the place around 11:15 p.m. The men, who, according to Nieves, were wearing blue face masks and hoods, pulled Nieves out of the back room of the store and hit him in the head with the gun. Then police say the store clerk jumped in and started wrestling for the gun, but was shot in the groin. The 34-year-old clerk is still recovering in Harlem Hospital. The 2 suspects quickly took off and dropped the cash they had managed to take, about $300, before the cops got to the scene.
There's nothing in here that costs over $10, $20 in the store.
The store manager, who also didn't want to show his face, says there's a big misconception with convenience and smoke shops. He says they're often targets for quick cash grabs, but in reality, they don't hold on to that much money. And when night rolls around, that misconception can become dangerous.
It's New York City, seriously. It's Gotham City here without Batman. Like, we really don't have a savior. Like.
The whole incident lasted only a few minutes, but it's still surreal for Nieves.
I never thought of that. Like, it's so safe. That thought never really crossed my mind ever, to be honest.
For some who live in this neighborhood, they say the ever-increasing presence of these shops really doesn't bother them that much.
I just goes on about my business. Those who like it. Those who don't.
As for the manager, he says he wants other store owners to consider ways to protect themselves.
I personally feel like if you don't know the customer by today, don't let a stranger in the store. I mean, you're not missing much. $5 to $10, your life worth more than that.
The next move for the manager is installing a panic button as soon as possible.
Down on Coney Island, cops and advocates cracking down on illegal exotic animals along the boardwalk.
Well, when you're walking on the boardwalk and you happen to pass somebody carrying a python or an alligator or any other wild animal, it might seem like a cool idea to pay and have your picture taken with the animal. But animal activists are reminding us wild animals are illegal here in New York City, and the treatment of those animals is considered inhumane and cruel. This cute little wallaby is now in the care of a wildlife rescue center in Suffolk County, Long Island.
It should have a very large outdoor enclosure at the very least. It's supposed to be in the wild.
Last Friday, the guy who owns the wild animal was getting money from people on the Coney Island boardwalk who wanted pictures with it, until he got busted by police.
This is illegal exploitation of these animals. They don't belong in a cramped bag in Coney Island. They belong in Australia. Some of these animals belong in South America.
John DeLeonardo is the executive director of Humane Long Island. They patrol tourist areas and report the illegal activity to police. A member of his group spotted the man with the wallaby. Recently, the NYPD also seized a python and a caiman lizard. Daniel Murphy represents business owners on the boardwalk.
The issue for the businesses is the safety of their customers. These animals are not domesticated pets. They are wild animals.
Wild exotic animals are illegal in the city, but are not illegal in the rest of the state.
The New York State legislature needs to ban both the exhibition and the pet ownership of all exotic animals.
Until then, DeLeonardo says we can expect to see even more wild animals in the city.
Back in Manhattan, the woman who fatally shoved a beloved Broadway coach in Chelsea pleads guilty.
A 27-year-old woman's pleaded guilty to manslaughter for pushing an 87-year-old vocal coach to her death.
Under the terms of the plea, Lauren Pazienza will be sentenced to 8 years in prison. Chris Welch has reaction from the victim's grandson.
I feel the emptiness of autumn.
Barbara Mayer Guster was a celebrated New York vocal coach who died in March of last year after she was pushed by this woman near her Chelsea apartment. That woman, Lauren Pazienza, now convicted of manslaughter in the first degree after accepting a plea deal. She'll serve 8 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of post-release supervision.
Feeling a little disappointed in the overall verdict of 8 years with 5 years probation. I think she's extremely lucky to have the family and the resources that she has.
AJ Guster is Barbara's grandson. He says he would have liked to see tougher punishment, but he says a conviction by way of a plea is still a conviction.
Now that there's finally hearing her admit to what she did and taking at least that measure of accountability, definitely brings some measure of closure.
In a statement, District Attorney Alvin Bragg said, quote, Lauren Pazienza aggressively shoved Barbara Guster to the ground and walked away as the beloved New Yorker lay there bleeding. Today's plea holds Pazienza accountable for her deadly actions. But one of Guster's most famous vocal students, Blondie's Debbie Harry, says the 8-year prison sentence, not enough. Quote, it seems to me an even greater crime was committed by allowing a plea deal to be accepted for what clearly was an outright murder, she tells Fox 5. I'm outraged and alarmed that this wonderful, loved woman has received so little justice. A mere slap on the wrist for this thoughtless criminal. Fox 5 reached out to Pazienza's attorney, but did not hear back.
Up in the Bronx, an argument on the 2 train escalates to violence.
Police are searching for the man they say slashed a commuter on a subway train in the Bronx. It happened around 4 p.m. Tuesday on a northbound 2 train. Police say the suspect and a 32-year-old man got into an argument, and that suspect slashed the man's left arm with a knife before getting off the train at the Grand Concourse and 149th Street station in the Mott Haven section. The victim was taken to the hospital in stable condition, but if you have any information, if you recognize the suspect, call Crime Stoppers.
And finally, returning to Queens, a trio of suspects viciously attack and rob a rideshare driver.
Police are searching for a group of suspects accused of viciously robbing a rideshare driver. It happened on Friday, August 4th, on the Horace Harding Expressway in Queens. Police say the driver pulled over after he got into an argument with the suspects. Police say they started beating him. They tried to steal his car before taking his wallet. He was treated at the hospital. He's expected to be okay. Do you have any information who these people are? If you do, please call Crime Stoppers 1-800-577-TIPS.
And that's this week's Crime in the City. Subscribe for more at youtube.com/Fox5NY.